All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are to talk about a very exciting card that we have this weekend for you guys. Derek Brunson is taking on the fast-rising middleweight prospect, Edmund Shahbazyan. Let me tell you about this Shahbazyan kid. He's 22 years old. Former training partner of one Ronda Rousey. I believe she is his manager at this point. This kid, and they've been saying it forever, he's going to be a future champion. He's one of those kids that grew up in the gym. He is a true mixed martial artist. When we were talking about it in the last episode, we talked about, kids who grew up doing mixed martial arts. Edmund Shahbazyan is that kid. My name is Randall, folks. My co-host Waleed Kandusi. We are Native MMA Radio. Please check out our YouTube page, our Facebook page, do the little notification bell, all that good stuff. Wally Wall, how excited are you to see Shahbazyan in all his glory?
I'm very excited about this fight, but I'm not just that. I'm actually excited about the whole main card. I think
the main card is stacked.
Yeah, exactly. And we have some interesting matchup also in the prelims. But dude,
man, but that Vicente Luque Randy Brown card, that's got fireworks written all over it. Right now, I'm gonna go out and say it. Fight of the night, right there.
We shall see.
Up chat, man. When has Vicente ever given us a boring fight?
Never. I think never.
Never, ever. Now, let's just jump right into this card. We have in the bantamweight division, Cruz Gutierrez going up against Cody Duran. Cody Duran's making, I believe, his UFC debut, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
He's 11-2 as a pro. He is the #1 ranked bantamweight out of the state of Georgia. Very interesting fight for him. Gutierrez is no slouch. We've seen him in the UFC so far, 2 or 3 times. It'll be an interesting fight. We'll see what the young man from Georgia can do.
Yeah, interesting fight. I think that maybe we will have discover a new fighter in this card. We don't have any heavyweight division in this card, so I cannot say that they should have started the card with the heavy boys.
And I know that's got to really upset you.
Yeah, I want the first fight to be heavyweight all the time.
Every single fight card. Like, what are you guys thinking? Horrible decisions.
That's all I want.
Now, we have another debuting fighter. This young man has spent a little bit of time in PFL, but Tumar Valiviv, I just completely butchered his name, I'm sorry, is going to be taking on Jamel Emmers in the featherweight division. They're both relatively the same age, 30-31. Emmers is 4 inches taller, and it doesn't say anything about Valiv's reach, but this could be another interesting fight. I have not seen his PFL fights. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I definitely wasn't at them, so that's a good thing.
So, Ali, it's his first fight in the UFC, and Jamal, it's his second fight, I think. The first fight in his UFC career, he lost by split decision to Giga.
Wasn't he on the Contender Series or no?
I'm not sure about.
He lost to Julian Erosa on the Contender Series.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember seeing the name before.
Yeah. Yeah, and the face is pretty familiar to me, but yeah, another interesting matchup. I think that we will have to discover these two fighters. Even though Jamal,
I love watching these earlier fights because there's a lot of guys who even you and I don't even know about. Like, had you last week, I couldn't have told you anything about Evalev. I couldn't have told you anything about Imiv, but those guys really came out and impressed me. And these are the same situations where we find new and exciting fighters. Conor McGregor was not always a main event fighter. DC obviously came from another promotion, but when he was in Strikeforce, he was an alternate in the heavyweight tournament. Like these guys, all your favorite fighters started somewhere, and all of them fought in these really small rinky-dink regional scenes, and they all made their way up through the prelims. You got to understand, if you're not watching these prelim fights, you're not watching the future of MMA.
Yeah, even let's talk about Hamzat, who is maybe one of the hottest fighter right now in the UFC. In 10 days prior, we didn't know the guy.
I couldn't tell anything about him.
all we knew is that he's a Russian with an undefeated record.
And he trained with Gustafsson and those guys.
Yeah, we didn't know shit about him, and now he's in every Instagram
He's the
website.
most talked
everywhere.
about UFC fighter at the moment.
No doubt about him, no doubt.
Eric Spicely is taking on Marcus Perez in the middleweight division. I love saying that his name. Marcus Perez. Marcus Perez fought Wellington Turman last. Wellington, obviously, we've had on the show before. Marcus had Joker face paint on. So I hope he brings that back tomorrow during the weigh-ins.
That was sick, yeah.
Hell yeah, that was badass. I'm a big Joker fan. So when I seen that, I was fucking hella excited about that. Even though he was fighting our man Wellington, it's still a little kudos for me. Wellington ended up beating him, so it is what it is. Hopefully Marcus Perez can bounce back here against Eric Spicely.
Man, Marcus Perez, ever since he joined the UFC, he's on that lose, win.
Yeah.
Now his last fight he lost. I think that he may win this fight just to keep on the lose, win. And for Eric, he lost his first UFC fight to Deron Win. So maybe, I don't know. I think that we will see.
No. Eric actually won his very first UFC fight against Thiago Santos.
Okay, no, but he then left the UFC.
Then he left and he came back. But in 2016, he was in the UFC.
Yeah,
he beat Thiago Santos and then lost to Sam Alvey. And then he went on to beat a couple of one no-name guy, lost to Shoeface, lost to Gerald Mershart, got cut, came back, lost to Darren Stewart, lost to Darion Wynn. Here we go again, Marcus Perez. But hey, you know what? When opportunity knocks, especially right now with this pandemic, you got to answer the call. You don't know when your opportunity is going to come. Obviously, Kazmat Shemaev didn't know his opportunity was going to come. He didn't know he was going to get another opportunity 10 days later. I'm sure had you asked him 2 weeks ago, did you expect to fight twice already and then on the next pay-per-view, he would have told you were crazy. But that is what it is. And here we are. Opportunity knocks. You got to take it by the fucking balls and run with it.
Exactly. I agree with you.
If you're a fighter right now, the ball is literally in your court.
Yeah. If you want to fight, you fight. If you don't want to fight, you don't fight.
You don't fight. It's that simple. If you are signed to the UFC right now and you want fights, call them. They will book you a fight.
Dana White was always against maybe booking someone 10 days after his fights. And he've done it because everything is crazy right now. Why not having it, So... yeah, if you want to try something crazy, just do
when
it.
The guy has 2 fights, spends 3 rounds in the octagon, and only gets punched twice, it's kind of hard to deny him, though.
You have in this pandemic right now, we have the Hamzat who could book 2 fights in 10 days. And then you have the Marvin Vittori's who cannot book his next fight because nobody wants to actually fight him. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy what's going on right now.
Another guy who was having problems fighting an opponent just got one. Jeff Neal will be taking on Neil Magny, I believe, at the next pay-per-view.
I think so also, yes.
In the bantamweight division, Ray Borg is going to be taking on Nate Maness. I believe this is Nate's very first UFC fight. The kid is 11-1. Yeah, his very first UFC fight. His lone loss was 2 fights ago, but he's looked phenomenal since that, beating the likes of Brandon Bell early in their careers. Good fights.
Ray Borg, man. Ray Borg he's
Ray
still
Borg
there.
Has been through it all, man. I totally feel for this guy. He's had the short end of the stick pretty much his entire UFC career. He's had to deal with tremendous outside problems to deal with. My heart is always with this man when he steps in the UFC octagon, and I can't not pull for him.
He lost his last fight to Ricky Simon by split decision, but listen, if you think you can never count down Ray Borg, you know that he is exactly what he's supposed to be in this division. He is a talented fighter. He is experienced, and it will not be an easy job for Nathan.
No, not at all. Especially when you look at the experience that Ray Borg brings into it. He's already fought the best in the world, Demetrius Johnson. He looked very good up until the fact that he got thrown in there and armbarred. I was there. That was probably the best thing I've ever seen outside of a flying knee. Exactly. Like personally.
Yeah, and he fought, and not only Demetrius Johnson. I think that he fought every important fighter in this flyweight division, in the flyweight division.
Yeah, he really went through contenders in the flyweight division to get to Demetrius Johnson. Like when you talk about guys, I mean, they were talking about TJ coming up, and DJ said, no, Ray Borg is the more deserving fighter than a guy who's came up and never had a win in this division.
No.
But let's just look at some of his wins. I mean, the guy's beaten Jussier Formiga. He's beaten Luis Smolka. I mean, you got to understand, we're talking about one of the best in the world.
Yeah, he maybe he didn't fight against Benavidez and Henry, but he fought against all other than those two. He fought against everyone he had to face.
He had to get to his title shot.
Yeah.
In the light heavyweight division, Ed Herman is taking on Gerald Meerschaert. I believe this fight just got put together. I believe Meerschaert is taking this fight on a very late notice. Kudos to the Rufus Sport athlete. I'm a big fan of Gerald Meerschaert, and I can't wait to see this fight.
Meerschaert with an impressive MMA record. He have one of the most impressive MMA record that I ever seen, I think.
Especially for a 32-year-old.
Yeah, so many fights. Like the three fighters that actually really, the other two that actually really amaze me, that is Oleinik and Gegard Mousasi. They have crazy.
They don't got shit on Amanda Ribas. 101.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
That's a whole nother level. I like Ed Herman, man. Ever since he was on The Ultimate Fighter. We've seen him in the UFC since what, 5 years now? No, longer than that. Shit, like 10 years now, I want to say. Yeah, his very first fight in the UFC was in 2006. He fought Kendall Grove in the Ultimate Fighter 3 finale. Wow. That's how long ago that was. You know, Kendall Grove is fighting bare knuckle. I want to say he's fighting Thiago Alves.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, why not? Everything is crazy. Yeah, it's a paycheck.
Frankie Saenz in the bantamweight division is taking on Jonathan Martinez. Obviously, we talked to Jonathan's teammate Alexander Hernandez a couple weeks ago. They're both training down there in Factory X in Colorado. World-class training facilities, world-class fighters all around them. Obviously, those guys, it's iron sharpening iron. Saenz has an unfortunate 4-inch reach disadvantage, with Martinez being the bigger and younger and longer fighter.
Yeah, another interesting matchup to close up. I believe I
really feel like Jonathan Martinez could be the future of this bantamweight division. The kid is only 26 years old, and the sky is the limit. He trains with a great team, and you just see the evolution in him every time.
Yeah, he's a young prospect, and
his lone loss in the UFC is to Andre Ewell, who we've had on the show, and we know Andre is no slouch.
Exactly. So we will see. We will see how he will do in this fight. He lost his last fight, so he needs to win this fight so that he can move up the ladder.
Yeah, I really feel like this fight is almost booked around him to win. I don't have. Let's look up the card's odds. I'm very interested to see on who is the underdog in that fight. I would almost be shocked if it went the other way. I would say Martinez is the favorite. Yeah, Martinez is -200 favorite. Interesting matchup. I really feel like all these are close. There's not one matchup. The only matchup that's really, really, really one-sided is that Chris Gutierrez matchup. Everything else is pretty much a pick 'em. Shahbazyan's pretty one-sided too, or at least getting there.
Yeah.
Now for you, main event time, man. Kevin Holland versus Trevin Giles. Both of these two gentlemen put on great fights. We obviously know Trevin Giles is the Houston police officer. Kevin Holland from Texas himself. Kevin Holland went out on the internet before they signed this fight and said, hey, listen, Trevin, no matter what happens in this fight, don't just be pulling me over for some bullshit when I go through Houston, all right?
Yeah. So, yeah, Kevin Holland is they know what called him Big Mouth, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't
He's the only one that would step up and fight Thiago Santos. The only one.
Hmm. Yeah, he has the courage to do it. Kevin
100%.
Holland, yeah, he is one of those very interesting fighters that do not have any boring fights.
I've never seen a boring Kevin Holland fight. I'm always excited when I see Kevin Holland on the card. You've seen what he was able to get against Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy. That was a great fight. We actually had Fluffy on before that card. Brendan Allen beat
Yeah.
him. But besides that, he has looked phenomenal in this middleweight division outside of fighting his very first fight.
Yeah, so
I
I think
definitely
that's
think this fight, though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. I think like I was maybe I think about to say exactly what you were going to say. I think that this fight is have the potential to be maybe fight of the night.
Well, I've already picked my fight of the night, so I can't retract that statement. But I definitely think that this is a very even matchup, and I really feel like the styles in this make the matchup, and this is going to be a great stylistic matchup.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Now, even though I've already called fight of the night, this is another one, obviously, that could be fight of the night. The lightweight division, Lando Venata versus Bobby Green. I was there when these two fought the first time, and it was probably one of the best fights I've ever actually been able to see live. Here we go one more time. I'm excited to see it again.
Lando, man, I actually enjoy every time I see Lando Venata fight. And Bobby Green, man, his striking is beautiful. Like his boxing is beautiful. So it's a very interesting matchup.
Bobby Green, again, never has a boring fight. Lando Venata never has a boring
Never
fight.
will
These
fight.
two guys are going to go out there and put on a performance. I really feel like we've talked about this, man. This fight card is stacked. Truly stacked. And I mean, if you look at this main card, the great middleweight matchup to start it, and this is without heavyweight fights. Another great lightweight matchup between Venata and Bobby Green. And then the very next fight is a great matchup between our good friend Vicente Luque and Randy Brown. I mean, we've talked to Vicente multiple times on this show. We're going to try to get him on after the fight card. This has fireworks written all over it. Like we've talked about Kevin Holland, like we've talked about Venata and Bobby Green, I haven't seen a boring Vicente Luque fight. And Vicente goes in there and he takes guys out, and he's shown it since he's been on The Ultimate Fighter. Vicente is literally the silent assassin. That's his nickname. He's a very quiet guy. He's not going to be brassing in your face, but guess what? He's going to beat you.
Yeah, Vicente Luque is a bad motherfucker.
100%.
And Randy Brown is no easy matchup, but Vicente, man, if he gets another win, dude, they need to. I don't know what's next for him if he wins this fight, because I feel like maybe of course not a title fight, but he should be fighting against really top contenders.
Listen, we've talked to Vicente probably about 5 times on this show. Every single time he has called for Jorge Masvidal. This was before the flying knee. This was before he knocked out Till.
Yeah.
He's been calling for Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal, stop being scared to answer the phone.
Masvidal right now is kind of on another planet, because he reached that superstar level kind of McGregor fame. He cannot answer to everyone's call.
But this man's been calling you out for years before you ever got that fame. He's been saying that he could beat you. He's in your division. He's down the street from you in Florida. He trains at the rival gym. His teammates already beat you.
But you know that Masvidal needs one fight, and then he's back at that title fight contender discussion.
Do you think he's going to fight? Who do you think's next for Masvidal? Do you think he fights Colby?
That's what I want to see. But maybe Nate, maybe Connor. We don't know. Like, he reached that level where there's so much talk and so much less actions.
He can do whatever he wants.
We don't know what the fuck is going to happen. But now back to Vicente, man. I think that Randy Brown, and I don't want to shit all over the fighter, but I think that he's no match. I think that
I have to agree with you, man. And I like Randy Brown a lot.
I like him too, but I don't see how. I think that Vicente Luque is actually very underrated.
I don't think he's going to be able to hold up against Vicente. Vicente has ruthless pressure.
Yeah, he's underrated. I feel like Vicente Luque is being underrated by the UFC.
For sure. I wouldn't mind seeing Vicente against guys like Woodley either, or an RDA.
I would love to see that.
I
That's
honestly think Henry Hoof has the secret formula on how to beat Woodley. You've already seen two of his fighters do it successfully. And I said it before, after that fight, I think Vicente could be that third fighter.
you can.
In the women's flyweight division, the co-main event, Joanne Calderwood has decided that she is not going to take her title shot, and she will take on what is presumably probably the number 2-3 contender in the flyweight division, Jennifer Maia. Now, this is a phenomenal title eliminator fight, and it really guarantees the winner of this the next title shot at Miss Valentina Shevchenko. The problem is they have to fight Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah. They have something in common. They both lost to Kukijian, so yeah.
I really like JoJo. JoJo 2.0 has really re-evolutionized herself since joining those guys over there at Syndicate. I really feel like her and her husband now, or her fiance, I mean, they've just taken her striking to another level.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think that JoJo is a good fighter, and this fight is interesting, but we know that the winner of this fight is going to lose to Valentina.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part, is there's so many great women in this flyweight division, but it's going to be like DJ when he was, controlling his flyweight division. Valentina, I just don't see anyone beating her outside of her moving up and fighting Amanda Nunes. Again, I really don't see a compelling matchup.
Yeah.
I don't see a flyweight right now where I'm like, she could probably beat Valentina. I just don't see it. And it's not because I'm a huge fan of Valentina Shevchenko. It's reality. She is so good, and she is on such another level that it really doesn't matter what any of these women do. I think Joanne Calderwood is going to come in there, show her dominance, and with her striking, she's going to get the victory. Now, what does she do against Valentina? That's another thing. Against Jennifer Maia, though, on Saturday night, I feel like her striking is going to be the advantage. She has an 1.5 inch reach advantage. I really feel like that's where she's going to see herself shine in this fight. And if she keeps it standing and doesn't get taken to the ground by Jennifer Maia, I feel like Joanne Calderwood is going to really put on a dominant performance.
Yeah, I think that JoJo, I agree with you. I think that JoJo is the better fighter between these two. Now, I don't know, because those matchup, I kind of see them as some sort of even, so it's hard to pronounce, but the only thing that is not really even, it's against Valentina.
Exactly. Yeah, like 2 through 15 are anyone can beat anyone. But when you get to that number 1, ain't no one beating that final boss.
Nobody.
Here we are, the main event in the middleweight division. Finally, Edmund Shahbazyan graces us with his presence in a UFC main event, this time taking on the gatekeeper, Derek Brunson. I know he hates that calling, but I mean, at this point, it's really what it is. When you beat Brunson, you go and face those guys in the upper echelon. Brunson is 7, 8. Edmund's right above him. Edmund looked phenomenal against Brad Tavares, had a beautiful head kick. Edmund Shahbazyan, like I was saying earlier, is really, those kids that grew up in the gym on MMA. He is this first evolution of fighters where they're complete mixed martial artists by the time they're 17. The kid's 22. He's got an 11-0 record at 22. Just think about that. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
The golden boy.
Very young. And this is a big challenge. And you know what? Like, I know that everyone would go with Edmund, saying that because Derek Brunson is the gatekeeper, but because Derek is actually so good that for me, I feel like it's for Michael Johnson, I have no issue calling him a gatekeeper. For Derek Brunson, it's kind of more tough for me. I feel like Derek Brunson may win this fight.
It wouldn't surprise me. Brunson has the boxing to do it, and he's stopped hype trains before. I just don't see him stopping this one.
I'm not sure. I feel like Edmund is too young. I think that they maybe it's too soon for him to fight against a guy like him. Then again, I'm not sure.
Since losing to Izzy in 2018, Brunson has beaten Elias Theodore to see him leave the UFC and Ian Heinisch. He's looked very good in 2019. This is his first fight in 2020. We'll see how it ends up for him. This is a huge, high-profile belt for Edmen Shahbazyan. Does he fold under the pressure? We don't know. Saturday night will really answer a lot of questions, especially the one that is Edmen Shahbazyan ready for the next level.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting matchup.
100% for sure. Who wins the main event? Tell me why, how.
I will go with Derek Brunson, and I think that maybe I will go with a decision win.
I'm going to go with a very nice, just well-timed knockout for Mr. Edmen Shahbazyan. I believe the pressure of Shahbazyan is going to be too much for Brunson in the beginning, and I feel like he's going to crumble under that pressure.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have to pick 3 fights to watch.
3 fights to watch. I am going to go in the featherweight division. The very second fight of the night, Jamel Emmers versus Tamir Valiyev. I'm excited about that. I really like Emmers. I think he could do something in this featherweight division. If he gets a couple of fights under his belt, he's straight. I'm going to go straight to the main card. Lightweight division, Lando Venata, Bobby Green, fireworks written all over it. Fucking explosive fight. The welterweight division, man, my boy, Vicente Luque versus Randy Brown. Those are just phenomenal. These literally have the potential to be fight of the year fights. It's how good these matchups are.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, I would go with Ed Herman versus Gerald Marshev. I think that it's a very interesting matchup. Both of them very experienced, a lot of fights. For my second fight, I would go with Kevin Holland, man. I think that I never seen a Kevin Holland boring fight. So this one, I think that it will not be a boring fight. And because you were very kind to me, you let me the main event. I feel like the main event will have a big upset, and I feel like Derek Brunson may shock the world.
He most certainly would if he pulls out that victory, especially if he did it in devastating fashion against a very talented and young Shahbazyan. It's interesting to see, man. The future may just be here. We'll find out on Saturday night. Anything else on UFC Fight Night Brunson versus Shahbazyan?
Other than that, man, I have nothing else to say. I feel like it's an interesting matchup. The main card, like the previous card, the main card is actually pretty legit.
Legit.
Yeah.
A very, very good card for the UFC's return to Las Vegas.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited.
All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for us. Derek Brunson, Edmen Shahbazyan, Saturday night. Do not miss it. Starts around 3 o'clock on the West Coast, about 3 a.m. if you're in Italy or some shit like that. Don't be late, guys. Cannot wait. Wally Wall, thank you as always for joining me, and we're out.
Peace.